It is my pleasure. As CEO of Digital Escape Advertising, Gordon has more than 30 years of hospitality digital experience, and he educates his clients with innovating new ways of creating digital strategies that are easy to understand and effective. Gordon is driven to inspire others and help others thinking out of the box to drive website visitors, social media interactions, and engagement. His clients include independent hotels to major brands supporting all digital channels. For more information or a complimentary 30-minute digital consultation, Gordon has offered, which is wonderful. It's Gordon at digitalesc.com. With that, we'd like to welcome Gordon. And so we're giving you a virtual round of applause.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that.
You bet.
So we've got a lot to go over. This webinar that we're going to have today is not so much talking about overall numbers, because I think everyone knows where that's at. What we're going to do is talk about things that you can do today to impact tomorrow and to impact the future. And so what's important is that you all remember that you're going to get a copy of the PowerPoint, and we're going to give you more information at the end on how to get that. And if you have any questions, go into the chat and drop that in, and we'll tackle all the questions at the end. If we don't have time and we run out of time, I will email you or call you, and we'll go over your specific questions. So we have lots of things. We have 7 items that we're going to cover today, talking about everything from industry basics of the goals, which we should all have, to budgeting, to revenue management, and everything in between. So let's go ahead and get started. One thing that I think that's important is that we all set up goals for today and what we're going to do, because there is so much information. So what you want to look at the end of this is, where are you at today, and then where do you want to be tomorrow? Because we know with COVID, it's a moving target. You know, there's some parts of some states that are open now, and there are some parts that are still closed. And so we need to think about our customer leisure and the groups, and then also the individual business transient traveler. So when we're putting this all together, let's think about both short-term and long-term, and not like what we can do today to do immediately, because that is important, but the long-term is just as important as well. I do want to touch a little bit on some research on COVID and what the consumer is looking for. So the question was asked is, during the outbreak, I want to hear from the hotels on the following. They want to hear about packages. Multiple hotels that we work with currently, people are looking for value. And so if you're not rate driven, if you're not competitive, you're going to be losing out. And so we also noticed the window for bookings, and you can check with your own revenue management team, is very short-winded. You know, it could be 2 or 3 days. So what's important is to remember on this is, think about the specials that you have and how it impacts the current guest today. And then what information are you giving the guest about the cleaning protocols that you're doing for your property? Something that's really important to the guest. They want to know. So if you're using Facebook, or if you have an independent website or a brand website, make sure you have content that reflects that. And then what's going to persuade somebody to book a reservation? Again, they're looking for 2 things: discounts on their stay, so added value, but also flexibility to change cancellations. So I'm sure everyone's familiar with Google Flights. So I encourage everyone, if you haven't been there, to go to Google Flights today, because Google Flights just added a hotel section. And now, just like you can look up airlines, you can look up hotels on Google Flights. And you can break it down by those hotels are only offering free, no cancellation. So it now becomes even more important and part of the competitive nature of this. So some of the things that I want to talk about also is developing, a specific roadmap. And this is where, I want to remind everybody, as we go through this, if you have any questions, drop it into the chat section. So we're going to talk about 2 different action plans that I think you should create. The first one is going to be a 90-day action plan. So most of us are in month 1 or in month 2. So we're in this specific area right now that we need to target and think about what is the initial steps, because we have to think about about what's going on locally and what's going on with the state and which they're requiring in terms of breakfast, the number of people that can meet. For example, in New Jersey, we have a hotel that it used to be 50 people can meet together on a group, and the governor just changed that to 25. So these are things that you need to think about, how you're targeting specific audiences, and then what message do you want to give that audience, and what's the digital strategy that you're going to take as a result. And each of these is going to be in the initial rise in demand period, which we should all be in right now. But month 2 and month 3 is going to be, demand is going to increase even more. And then month 3, it's starting to level off a little bit. So we've got to consider how we're targeting each audience and what message, because the message is going to be different between all 3. And that's whether you're doing advertising or if you're doing LinkedIn posts or Facebook posts. These are things that you need to think about. Okay, so then we have that 90-day plan. The other one is to develop specific tactics. And so I'm just going to give you one example, but you will be able to download a full-blown roadmap with much more examples on how to do this. But this is an example that I want to kind of share with everybody on a 90-day strategy and tactics. So we want to monitor how are they looking at the keywords. So if you're currently working with an SEO agency, or if you're working with your brand, look how people are searching for keywords, because it is different than it was back in January and December. And then you're going to have to look at that again once all this passes, possibly, let's say, in January, because people's search habits are different. And so the action steps that you need to look at are these different areas. And there's keyword console, and there's a keyword planner, there's Google Trend, all these things we can help you with if you have any questions on it with the consultation. And then the result, what's working for you, what's not working for you, and then how do you track that? So just like any other action plan, monitor, action step, result, and how to track. So these are the things that you want to think about. And so again, you have additional ideas that we're going to give you. You can go to this link, and we'll also give you more information at the end, but have a 90-day action plan. So as you're coming out of this recovery, when your owners, your GM comes up to you and says, okay, what are you doing to get out of this? You can specifically say, I've got a 90-day action plan. And I made the action plan pretty much turnkey for everybody. You just have to put in your specific destination information and make a few tweaks to it. But I'm giving you the foundation, I'm giving you the graphics of what you need to create it, so you're not just looking at a blank document going from scratch. And then you got to think of things that you can do today. Again, there's probably 4 or 5 things that you can do today to make a difference, because of course the GM and the owners are going to go, what are you doing today? And so one of the things, if you haven't started, is to social selling. Really important. Now, this doesn't matter what type of business that you're in, but are you optimizing your LinkedIn profile? How does your LinkedIn profile look? Are you trying to reach your LinkedIn profile to reach your customer, or does it more look like you're looking for a job? And then you need to look at setting up social listening alerts. So we're going to be getting into a little bit, into RFP season. It's going to be very interesting in how that kind of falls out this year. But what alerts are you doing? So data centers are really big in specific areas now. So have you gone to look at, what are the big data centers that are coming into the area? And then have you set up social listening alerts to find out more about those data centers? So those are something that you need to think about, and pay attention with people that you're connecting with and developing those relationships, because it's a virtual world out there today, and people aren't getting those one-on-one sales calls. So something that we recommend on LinkedIn as part of a strategy that you can do is, rather than doing, let's say I'm going to reach out to Lori and to talk to her about her company, rather than, for me, text her a message in LinkedIn, you can go to your phone on LinkedIn, as long as you have the LinkedIn app, and you can do a video. Much more impactful. Make it short. People see you, they see your passion, and that's what's going to get people to connect with you as compared to one of your competitors. It's not the only thing, certainly, but it's all those components that come into place that look at that. And so that's something that, you really want to think about doing. And then if you're going to be going after first responders, displaced employees, healthcare workers, I don't want to tell you like how to get into this because I don't like recreating the wheel, but AHLA has done an enormously great job at that. When you get the PowerPoint deck, you'll have these links that you can go to. They're very specific frameworks to go after this business. Our hotels in Orlando, at least, are going after this and some other cities that we have, and it's doing really well with them. So I really encourage you to take a look at first responders and displaced employees and healthcare, especially if your location is where you can have a leisure getaway. Something that's we found is that, again, changing market segments, like what's our new market segments that we can go after, like the data center example that I gave. So this is something that I would recommend that you do. You can download these PDFs. They'll explain it in detail. So the next thing is, after you got your action plan and you're putting that together and you're getting things squared away, now you need to audit your digital channels. And you're going to take the digital channels that you're going to audit and include that into your action plan. So you're going to say, I want to audit. Let's take a look at some examples in a second on what we're going to audit, but what we're going to audit and why. So there's 6 basic digital channels that you're going to be auditing. And you're going to do that not just to audit, but you're going to do it to improve search engine rankings. You're going to want to increase your engagement, obviously increase your revenue. And remember, social media is really important. Really, you don't get conversions with social media, but what you do is you get that top funnel, the awareness stage. When people are searching, like if I want to go to the X hotel in Colorado Springs and I want to go to the B hotel in Colorado Springs, and I'm looking at both websites and I'm looking at both social media pages and the media page.
There you go.
Can we mute everyone go on mute? Because I'm getting some feedback. Okay, so if one social media page talks about what are the protocols that we're doing today to help make the guest feel safe, that guest might book your hotel as opposed to the other hotel who doesn't mention it at all. So something to think about. Okay, so the 6 buckets that I want to talk about, again, you're going to be putting these onto your action plan, and I want to go over these in specifics, and we're going to go over these in much more greater detail. The first one is your website analytics. So every brand, most of the brands provide some type of analytics. You may have to search and dig for it, and obviously the independent hotels have. Look at your website content, look at your descriptions, look at your email database if you do emails, look at your keywords, all very important to do. The next area you want to audit is your local search. How are you appearing in the local directories? If your pool is closed, then you need to go into local directories and change that so the guest doesn't have a poor guest experience. Your social media channels, which ones are working for you, which ones aren't. I see a lot of hotels that want to be in everything. You don't need to be in everything. You need to be the ones that impact your audience and the ones that are working for you. If you're doing paid search, again, what's working, business transient and group, and then the final bucket is revenue management. So these are all really 6 important areas that you need to prioritize based on your needs, based on your hotel, that you need to integrate into the action plan. So I want to go over a little bit in specifics. When you're auditing your website content, you want to look at your overall content that's on your website, which includes images. So if you don't have any pictures of images with people with their mask on, you need to add that, or the plexiglass. You want to look at your audience engagement and your conversion rate. Now, some of this detailed information the brands won't give you, but they're going to give you enough information that you can make some intelligent decisions on what you need to change to improve that. So an example for an independent hotel, the brands, again, will give you other information. But if you're an independent property or you have your own website and you're part of a branded hotel, there's a couple pages you need to look at. I think that's important. On Google Analytics, which most people use, there's probably 120 reports. So obviously we don't have time to go through all those, but there's a dozen or so reports you have to look at. 2 of the reports that you want to look at when you're auditing is going to be the all pages and the landing pages. And your SEO company can pull this for you. If they can't and you're doing it yourself or they're on furlough right now, go to Google Analytics, go to behavior, select content, all pages. I kind of give you the step-by-step directions here. And then you want to look at all the specific information that you're seeing. So what are the page views? What's the average time on the site? What's the bounce rate? These are all things that you need to look at. So take a pen out, take a paper. Average time on site is going to be about 2 minutes. Average pages that you're going to look at on a website is going to be 2 pages. Your bounce rate's going to be around 55% or so on average. Those are your benchmarks and what you want to look at. If you see a website and your bounce rate is 90%, I wouldn't worry about that if it's on the gallery page or the location page, because people are looking for your map and they're looking at pictures, they're going to bounce out. But if your home page or your room's description page has a 85 or 90% bounce rate, then that's an issue. And there's a lot of things that go into that as to why it's so high. The consumer is not liking what they see, basically. So you need to look at your keywords too. Now there's 4 basic keywords that consumers are looking at. Your intent, on informational intent, which is going to be answers to questions. Navigational, which they're looking specifically for the high place or the name of your hotel. Transactional, they want to buy something, so weekend packages in Colorado Springs. And then voice, they're using their Siri or they're using their Google device or their Amazon device or whatever voice device that they have. So each of these are very specific. Again, your SEO company can help you with this, but it's very important to understand that you theme your website around specific pages that have to do with content that's going to, search engines are going to be able to crawl and index you. If this is all confusing, I can go over it in detail, but again, if you have any question, drop it in. So let's talk about local search for a second. Local search are all those directories that you've never heard of. So this is an example. When we do an audit on local search, this particular hotel had a 58% score. NAP is name, address, phone. And you really need to be at about 98% to 100%. On the left-hand side of this graphic, these are all the different directories that are out there. There's probably about 50 directories. Every directory pulls something a little bit different from other directories. So again, something you need to think about on looking at. Your SEO agency should be able to do an audit for you. The brands a lot of times don't do this. You might have to do it on your own, but it's really important to understand because these are links that people are going to your website. And these are ways people are finding you. So if I'm in CNN and I go to the search mechanism on CNN and I type in Colorado Springs Hotel, CNN is buying their data from one of these data providers. So if your information is not up to date in the data provider, then that individual is going to get incorrect information. And then you want to look at Google My Business. This is like really, really important. This is, you know, if you go on the right-hand side of Google, you get what's called the Google panel. That pulls information from Google My Business. Now, there's no way of auditing Google My Business other than logging in and seeing if you're at 100%. So we have a Hyatt Place that we work with as an example, and the restaurant, because of state laws, is not open. We had to go into Google My Business and uncheck that we had a restaurant. Why? Because we were getting guest complaints. Guests were seeing on Google My Business that we had a restaurant, and they come to the hotel and only to find out it's closed. So you really want to look at your category listings and your attributes to make sure that everything is current. When you update Google My Business, it's 4 or 5 days for Google to make the change. So if you are temporarily closed, like we are at this one Hyatt Place with their restaurant, we'll go in there and we'll update it once the travel restrictions for restaurants are lifted by the governor. So something important to do and look at every so often. You get a lot of good data on Google My Business. And then I mentioned social media. So for those hotels that are closing, or if you furloughed your social media company, you really don't want to stop posting. Because again, an example I gave earlier, if someone is going to your page, they want that hotel awareness information. They want to see like what's going on. And it's really important to keep on posting and have up-to-date posts and not out-of-date posts. There's nothing worse than me going, or you or the consumer going to a website and the last post was April of, this year, or January or March. Guests want to understand what's going on in the area. They want to know what attractions are open, what's not open, what restaurants offer outdoor seating, which restaurants don't, all these things that are important to do. So if you furloughed your SEO company, your social company, because you couldn't afford it, at least post once a week, and at minimum once a week. So what can you post if you don't have an SEO or social company? Well, changes to your business policy, what you're doing for crisis management with the sanitation stations and so on. You can post updating quotes and personal messages, attractions that are open, restaurants, as I mentioned, that have outdoor seating. It's this way of staying connected to that guest. And so why you want to do a social media audit is just like why you want to do an audit on your website, evaluating what's working and what's not working for you. So again, putting this into your action plan, you need to have all your social media channels. So we have a lot of hotels, for example, that say we need to be on everything: Instagram, Facebook, Pinterest, and and maybe even TikTok and Twitter. And I tell my hotels, step back a second, because for the most part, I think all hotels globally should be on Facebook and Instagram. That's what most people are looking at. With Pinterest and with TikTok and with Twitter, if you're a big, huge resort, probably, Pinterest might make sense, because if you do, 80 to 100 weddings a year, be on it. But if you're not, it doesn't make sense. Twitter, restaurants are on Twitter. The big brands are on Twitter. As a hotel that's independently operated or local, Hyatt or Holiday Inn or Hilton or whatever brand you are, you don't really need Twitter. And the biggest thing is do an audit, see what's working. So if you're in these channels already, right, just take a look at those channels and see in the analytics how they're working for you. So we have a Facebook audit, which you'll be able to download this, this Excel spreadsheet, and you'll be able to look at a glance on what's working for you. And so you want to see engagement levels. You want to see year-over-year change. And having all this information is great. But if you don't know what to do with it, then it doesn't make any sense. So what we do is we put this together when we first start working with a client. And if we see that, yeah, we're posting twice a week on Twitter, but we're getting no engagement and there's only 250 people following us, does it make sense to, completely engage with that? On the flip side, if you're a corporate hotel, why aren't you posting it on LinkedIn? Because that's who your customers are. If you have Pinterest, but you only do 12 weddings a year, it doesn't make sense to post on Pinterest. It's strictly I want ideas for my wedding. And if you're only doing 12 weddings a year, take that, take that time, go into LinkedIn or go into Instagram, go into Facebook, and use your time wisely there. Those are the most important things that I think you need to look at. And then for those hotels that are independently, they're doing your paid ads, you need to look at, what are you spending your ads on? What's new now? Evaluate how much you're spending. I know a lot of hotels have put a hold on their paid per click spend, which made sense. But now that things are changing and people are starting to book again, maybe now it's time to kind of start including some paid ads, and not maybe Google ads, but maybe Facebook ads. Maybe you have a really nice pool at your hotel, so you can then do a package for the local market and also for a 300-mile radius saying, hey, we got a package that's going to include a girlfriend's getaway, or it's going to include a spa, or it's going to include a pool. These are things that you need to think about, previous guests. Again, it's all, when you're doing Facebook advertising, it's all that upper funnel, but it's a way of getting revenue into the property. Okay, just a reminder, if you have any questions, let's put it in the chat section, but let's talk about group and transient business. So with group bookings, again, it's so important to optimize your cancellation policy. So we have a hotel that has an independent website, but they also have a independent booking engine, but they're also part of brand.com. And the challenge with this property for us as a, their business partner is on their independent property with their independent booking engine, they have a cancellation policy of 24 hours. Okay. But the challenge is you go to brand.com and brand.com has no cancellation policy at all. So again, these are things I want everyone to think about is, the more flexible that you make your cancellation policy, the more likely that you're going to be getting reservation. And let's face it, not many people are running 100% or 98% occupancy right now. So why not just do a blanket open-ended cancellation policy is what we're recommending. These are things that you want to really stop and think about. And then you want to audit and update your group opportunities. And these are just 5 examples of 5 different websites that are out there, Convention Planet, CVent, and so on, that you want to look at. And what do you look at to audit? Well, you've got to upload new pictures. Maybe, take some ballroom pictures and have, 6 feet apart for classroom settings or 6 feet apart for, theater style settings. Maybe some housemen who are changing a room with the mask on. These are all things that are like really important to do. And then content, you've got to change the content on these sites. And, we just did an audit for one of our properties, and on Hotel Planner, the previous company, all they did was took what was on brand.com and then they dumped it onto Hotel Planner as their description. But that's not the audience. The audience is your leisure, your group. So sell to that. Talk about how you have bus parking in your parking lot. Talk about that you can walk to restaurants, right? Sell to the audience that you're trying to reach. And that's how you have to look at, each of these, because, your content description on a Hotel Planner is going to be different than CVent, right? Because CVent is your corporate person. So something to think about. And then you need to look at revenue management strategies. And so what's out there? Now I know a lot of us might have revenue managers that are doing this for us, and that's okay, but these are things that you can go back and ask them about and add your action plan. First is the HOD audit. When was the last time you pulled and looked at your HOD audit? Something that should be done at least twice a year. And you need to evaluate currently in the HOD audit, what attractions are open. Because if you have museums that's no longer open and they're closed, but yet they listed those in your indexes, you're wasting valuable indexes on the HOD. So why not just put the other, venues that are currently open? So when someone is going to a travel agent and they're looking up those things, you're there. And then again, getting back to the pictures, because pictures, I can't stress that enough. People want to see, they want to understand the safety of your hotel. And then obviously, how are you communicating? Now, most brands and independent hotels connect everything in their description, but not completely everything. So you really should pull that and modify any additional amenities that you need to change. So if you're not offering a free breakfast, if your restaurant is closed, you need to go in and change that. Again, getting back to your poor guest experience. And then obviously make sure that your cancellation policies filtered over to that HOD. Because if they didn't, you've got to make those changes on the HOD and correct that. And then you need to look at revamping your budgets. I'm sure most of you have already considered this or started revamping your budget. And that might be time to think about and consider, where can you cut? So, we're doing a COVID, special for a lot of our clients because we know they're hurting right now. Have you approached your agency to do that if you put them on hold and when they get ready to start up again? And so you really need to consider, maybe you need to make a change with providers. Maybe there's someone else locally that can do it. I wouldn't necessarily say, let's jump and say, okay, let's bring this in-house and have the front desk person do it, because there's strategy that goes along with that. But maybe if you were paying $2,000 a month, maybe there's someone out there that's a lot less expensive that can offer the same or more services. So see if they have a relief package. Look at, there's lots of companies out there, but that's something that you need to really stop and consider and think about. And And are they being a partner that's educating you and coming back to you with, specific ideas on things that you can do to change? So besides, the action plan, I think everyone should create a vision map. And what you do on the vision map, if you haven't created one, is you get together your executive team, and then I would pull someone from each department, like, a server or front desk and so on, and talk about, this is our current reality today. We're currently at, 35% occupancy, and we're struggling with getting, staffing, and the restaurants closed, and here's all the current reality of what's happening in the market. And what are the bold steps that we need to take to change that? So what's our new desired reality? So if you're at 35% occupancy, our new desired reality is going to be getting to 45% occupancy. And what are those bold steps that we're going to take? So one of the bold steps is going to be doing the audit. We're going to audit all of our channels. So how does a vision map differ from an action plan? It complements the action plan, and the action plan you're pretty much working on with you and your GM. The vision map is getting a buy-in from all the departments, and everyone sees what that new reality needs to be. And you take it by baby steps. So once you created those 3 bold steps, then you want to move on to the next 3 bold steps. And those are kind of things that we'd recommend that you look at, because it helps keep everybody on the team, kind of focused and where they need to be. And honestly, in your personal life, take this, I can send a PDF of this, the vision map out if you want to everybody, but it really helps you understand what your reality is today and where you want to be at tomorrow. So before we get to Q&As, everyone take out their phones for a second. So as we mentioned in the beginning, we want to do a consultation for hopefully as many people as we can. And we're getting the resources and everything that you need. So take your phone, just take click on your camera and just hover it over the QR code. And that will take you to the link that'll get you the roadmap, the social media audit form, and then I have a 30-point recommended action step form for you. Again, all this is turnkey. On the right-hand side, if you do want to do the consultation, and my consultations are always, here's the things that you can do, and asking you questions. You can either click on the link or again, take your phone, hover it over the QR code. It'll take you right to my calendar, and you can make an appointment right there with me. And these are the kind of things, I want to share that you should be doing when you're selling. So, when you're out selling, to have a QR code that goes right to a calendar to make an appointment with you, a QR code that goes right to your website or right to a call to action. Maybe it's a RFP on your website or a brochure that you want to have. The more technology savvy you become, and you can make it easier for somebody to get to, because honestly, a lot of people don't like typing in long, URLs. And if you're like me, you're going to mix up some of the words and letters, and you're going to screw it up, and then you get a page cannot be found. And the QR code technology today, compared to a couple years ago, is so much easier, because you don't have to download anything. You just put your camera on it, and then boom, you get to that link. So something I would consider doing in just your everyday, B2B meetings. So with that, let's move to Q&A. Lori? Oh, you're on mute.
So can you hear me okay?
Yeah, gotcha.
Okay. If I work for a brand, how do I do a website content audit since I don't have analytics?
So each of the brands, I'll use Hyatt for example, Hyatt has an area on their website internally that you can pull. It won't give you specifics, a detail like that example I gave you, but it will tell you these are the most popular pages on your website. So people went to the groups page, amenities page, and gallery page. Those are your top 3 pages. So I would start with those 3 pages and take a look at those pages, because those are the pages that people are most visiting. And you want to see, okay, what content is on those pages? Do I have static information, or do I have information that's saying, when you come into the hotel and you come in our guest rooms, we are doing blah, 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 you know, X amount of information on our guest rooms. Those are the things that are important to the guest. And so then once you have those top pages down, then you can start going down to the other pages on your website and getting more detail on the other pages. So another good example is, you know, let's getting back to Hyatt, use that as an example. They have like an awards page. So if you recently got the, you know, the Certificate of Excellence Award with TripAdvisor, you want to add it to that page, because that just gives more quality content and that kind of thing. So those are the kind of things that you can add to your website. I think you're going to mute again.
Well, I'll ask one.
Okay.
So, okay, what's the one thing that I can do that will get me immediate business?
I think the one thing that you is be proactive and really start using the LinkedIn and the social selling strategy. Even if you want to talk about LinkedIn for, you know, the 30 minutes when I talk to you, and I can tell you how to give you my advice and look at your LinkedIn profile, your company profile, I think that's one of the most important things that you can do to update immediately and take care of, because, you know, hopefully from a revenue management standpoint, you're all competitive with rates and that, because mostly I'm seeing that there's a lot of director of sales on here, and your revenue management's handling it, everything. But getting it in front of the customer, staying up with social media, staying up with LinkedIn, and doing your website and looking at what's on the website and what's updated, those are all combined together of things that you can do that will get you that immediate business. Because as I mentioned in the example earlier, if you're not posting about what protocols you're doing, if you don't have a COVID page on your website, if you don't have what you're doing to keep social distancing on your website, you know, that does impact it. You know, I'll give you an example. We just went out to our hotel. For hotels, we do photo shoots, and we just did 4 or 5 videos for a property. And we went out there and we had the person at the front desk with the mask on and behind the plexiglass talk about what they're doing for safety protocols. We went to housekeeping. We went to engineering. And then we posted those on Facebook and on Instagram. Tremendous engagement. And you compare that to the competitor on the street that's not posting that, that's just saying, hey, we got a special. Hey, we got a special. Hey, you know, this is what's open. That consumers can go, but this hotel is posting all of that and talking about their safety protocols. So those are things that are really important to do. So I think, I know I gave you multiple things, you only asked for one, but I guess to answer what the one thing is, go through the PowerPoint presentation, look at your hotel, look at your destination, and pick that one bucket of information that you think will make that change that can impact your business today. Oh, you're on mute again.
I hate that mute button. We do have some in the chat. One question was from Dina, and it was, how many local directories are there and how do I update them myself?
Sure, there's about 50 directories that are out there. And so to update them yourself is really very time consuming. There are services out there that will do that. And if you email me, I can give you a list of some of the services that will do that for you. The first thing is, are you a brand or are you an independent hotel?
Me, I'm actually with the CVB, but I was really interested in those directories and how we can maybe share that information with our hotel partners, and they kind of vary, but
Okay.
between independently owned and branded.
Okay, so why don't you message me, and then I'll kind of walk you through from a CVB standpoint what would be the best avenue.
Sure, thanks.
Ashley asked, what social media channels do you recommend?
Depending on your hotel, I think globally, everybody should be on Instagram and everybody should be on Facebook. And those are 2 primary ones. The other one that I recommend, if you're a B2B hotel or if you're a group hotel, LinkedIn. Absolutely LinkedIn 100%. You know, I was just talking to one of my Hyatts, for example, and they were going after data centers. So we're talking about how do I go after data centers, right? And because, you know, the brands, a lot of the brands have furloughed the national sales manager. So they're kind of on their own. So I said, well, let's go to LinkedIn. And we looked up on LinkedIn and we looked up data centers. We found the data centers that were opening up in the area near their property. And then I said, okay, now let's start looking at LinkedIn titles. Let's look at purchasing and let's look at director. And then we got to the point where we found LinkedIn contact for the director and for purchasing. And so from that point, the hotels took over and then they emailed them through LinkedIn. So, and when you're doing that, you don't want to say, hey, how much business you got for us? You want to, it's like dating, you know, you want to go slow. So hi, we're a hotel that's really close by. We thought it'd be great for us to connect to each other. Love to, you know, connect with you. Oh, by the way, I saw on your profile that we're both members of this organization, or we both graduated from this college. It binds a connection from them. So read the profile. So if there's a personal connection that you can have, and then wait till they accept you. Then you send another text message saying, oh, great that we connected, and love to understand any needs that you might have for a hotel. So it's slowly building that up. But I do recommend on LinkedIn that you look at someone's profile and then you connect with them and you mention whatever you found in your that LinkedIn profile that you connect with. You mention that in the ad. It's or in your message to them. It's only human nature. How many times have you gone out and you start to talk to somebody and you mentioned that you like to read books, and then the other person said, oh, I love to read books too. You got that commonality, and that's what it's going to develop.
Gordon, I had a question for you. You had talked about social selling earlier.
Yep.
And I was wondering, you know, and maybe especially in LinkedIn or any of those platforms, what's that fine line between selling yourself or selling your business or not coming off as creepy or cheesy when you're reaching out to people through a channel like LinkedIn? How does social selling work from that perspective?
Well, let me share some overall stats. The stats are by multiple companies, and you can email me if you want the stats, everybody that's on the line, but it shows that people who are engaged with social selling meet and exceed their expectation of goals for their company. And as long as you're not just going on LinkedIn and using these third-party companies that will, you know, like everybody in one fell swoop, and you make it personal. So BJ, if I didn't know you and, you know, but I see that, okay, you're someone that I would like to do business with. And I go to your LinkedIn page and I see that you're a member of HSMAI. And I text you, you know, or let's take that one step further. I see that we both know Lori. Then I can say, oh, I see that we have multiple connections and that we both are involved with the HSMAI group. Would love to connect with you with our industry experience together. And, you know, by the way, I post once a week or once a month, however you decide to do it, updates on education material that will help you find new business. Love to connect with you if we can. And then that's it. There's no selling. I just told them, I want to help you. I'm going to provide sales educational. So for the hotels, for example, we recommend posting everything surrounding around travel related things that makes a travel planner's job easier. So checklists, you know, what's happening in the airline market and that type of thing. So then let's say you connect with me. Then I send you another text message, an email that says, thanks so much for connecting with me. Glad we connected. I hope we can help each other in the future. That's it. No selling. And now I'm posting information that's helpful. So you're seeing in your feed that I'm saying, here's how you find data centers. Here's how you can maximize your opportunity with the Economic Development Council, and so on and so on. And then maybe 3 weeks later, I go, oh, by the way, BJ, you know, I was taking a look at your website. I noticed there might be some opportunity here. I thought maybe we can get on the phone. I can just share with you, you know, what I see. You know, and here's a real good example since you're with a branded hotel. We know how some brands, based on the national sales manager, they don't want you talking to their national corporate business transient accounts, right? But you know that as a sales guy, the only way you're probably going to get that business is if you kind of go after them, let them know you're there. So what we recommend is, because the brands can't control your LinkedIn page, it's your personal LinkedIn page. So if you get a lot of business from Burger King and you found the travel planner for Burger King, I would simply send a message to them. Love to connect with you. I see that we have multiple connections together. We're located in, Colorado Springs, right? In Colorado Springs, and it'd be super if we connect with the connections that we have. We've both been in the business. And then that's it. Let them connect back to you. Then the next message I would put to them is this. I would say, hi, Bob. I know normally, a lot of the travel managers would prefer to deal with the national sales manager. Love to share with you a little bit of our property if you don't mind. So that way you're not intruding on them. You're respecting their relationship with the national salesperson. But let's face it, a lot of people will text you back or message you back. And now you just developed a relationship with them, and then you bring in your national sales manager. Oh, by the way, so-and-so connected with me on LinkedIn. And that's a smooth way of getting into those national accounts. I hope that kind of answers it broadly for you.
Yeah, very helpful. Thank you.
Any other Q&As?
I think that's it.
Okay, well, great. I hope everyone found this very helpful. Again, you'll be able to get a copy of the deck. Just make sure, you put your phones here. If you don't have your phone with you or it's not charged, when you get a copy of the deck, you'll be able to go and download all this information. So thank you everyone so much. I really appreciate your time.
Gordon, thank you so much. I think it's just incredibly helpful when you're in sales or marketing or selling a business of any type, and then you go through a presentation like this and checklists and forms and tasks that you should be doing. I don't think I'm alone in feeling sometimes like my pants are down, or you're asleep at the wheel. If there are some things on that list that you've been snoozing on. So it's just super helpful to get that kind of reminder and as you had said originally, roadmap towards moving towards recovery and everything that we all need to be working on and focusing on right now. So thank you very much for that. Please note that at the end of the year, we're going to be giving a donation to our charity, CASA, Court Appointed Advocates, on behalf of you and all of our speakers this year. We appreciate your time and sharing your knowledge and advice with us today. Folks, in addition to that deck that Gordon's going to be sending out, a few other things to look out for from HSMAI Southern Colorado. A recording of this meeting is going to be available. As always, we send out a survey about the meeting, so please take 2 minutes and fill that out because we do go over that information in our chapter meetings, and we appreciate your feedback. In addition to that, we'll be sending out a larger survey in the upcoming week in terms of moving forward in general with HSMAI and the meetings that we're going to be having. So very, very important to get your feedback on that. Thanks as always to our chapter sponsors, Eric Sprinkle, adventure photographer and speaker, and Jennifer Bliss with Santa Moore Promotions. And look out for information on our September meeting coming out soon and registration for that. Thanks for being here today and look forward to seeing you all soon in the future. Have a great day.